All right, everyone, welcome. In this session, we're jumping right into the heart of Unit 5 from your Law of Insurance syllabus. We're going to be dissecting the legal framework that basically holds the entire insurance industry in India accountable. And we'll be focusing on two really big ideas: social control and the rights of third parties. This isn't just dry legal theory, This is about how the law actively builds a safety net for all of us. Okay, just think about this for a second. A car accident happens. It's something we see or hear about all the time. But legally speaking, who pays? And maybe even more importantly, who makes sure that payment is fair? This very simple, very real-world question is actually our doorway into this incredibly complex legal world. It's a world designed to manage risk, to demand accountability, and ultimately to deliver justice. And the answers, well, they're baked right into the structure of India's insurance law. So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle the big idea of social control. Then we'll get to know the main regulator, the IRDA, the industry's watchdog. From there, we'll dive into why some insurance is mandatory and what rights that gives to victims. And finally, we'll look at the different legal bodies you can turn to when there's a dispute. Sound good? Let's get started. Okay, Section 1, Insurance and the Public Good. The first question we have to ask is, why? Why does this massive body of law even exist to control what is, at the end of the day, a private business? It's easy to think of an insurance policy as just a simple contract between you and a company, but in reality, its function is so much bigger. It's absolutely fundamental to our society's economic health and social well-being. It tackles huge social problems, everything from industrial accidents to car crashes. And because of that massive public impact, you just can't leave the industry entirely to market forces. And that right there, that is the core legal principle of social control. So if the government is going to exert this kind of control, who's actually in charge? Who's the enforcer? Well, let's move on to Section 2 and meet the main regulator in India. The Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, or IRDAI as we often call it, is really the central pillar of all insurance regulation. The IRDAI Act of 1999 gave it a very clear two-part mission. First and foremost, its job is to protect your interests, the policyholders' interests. And second, its job is to regulate and promote the healthy, orderly growth of the entire industry. Now, what's really fascinating here is just how much power the IRDAI actually has, and it comes straight from Section 14 of the Act. This is a very active, very hands-on regulator. It's the one that hands out licenses and can take them away. It sets the rules for agents to stop them from mis-selling policies. It even dictates how insurance companies have to invest their money to make sure they don't go broke. And it can force them to do business in rural areas, making sure insurance is available to everyone, not just people in cities. All right, let's move on to Section 3. Now we're going to see one of the most direct forms of social control you'll ever encounter: compulsory insurance. The law makes a really critical distinction, and it's laid out perfectly here. Protecting your own car, that's what we call first-party insurance, is your own financial choice. It's totally voluntary. But protecting other people on the road from the harm you might cause, well, that's seen as a public responsibility. And that's exactly why third-party motor insurance isn't a choice. It is a legal requirement. And here's the kicker. Just look at how powerful this mandate is. Under Section 147 of the Motor Vehicles Act 1988, this required insurance has to provide unlimited liability for death or bodily injury to a third party. Just think about that word for a second. Unlimited. This creates an incredibly strong financial safety net for accident victims and their families. Now, liability for damage to someone's property, on the other hand, does have a cap set by the law. Okay, on to Section 4. So when an accident actually happens, how does the injured person, the third party, go about getting the compensation that the law says they're entitled to? This is not just a matter of making a phone call to an insurance company. No, there's a formal legal process that kicks in, one set up by the Motor Vehicles Act itself. Now, under Section 165 of the Act, the victim doesn't file a claim in a regular civil court. Instead, they go to a specialized body, the Motor Accident Claims Tribunal, or MACT. This tribunal investigates everything. It decides on the claim, and then it issues a binding award that the insurance company is legally forced to pay. And that brings us to our final section. The MACT is absolutely vital, but it's not the only game in town. The legal system gives us several different avenues for sorting out insurance disputes, and this is a key part of what you need to know for your syllabus. This table does a great job of showing the different paths to justice. The MACT is the specialist, right? It deals specifically with third-party motor accident claims. But what if you, as a policyholder, have a personal problem, like your health insurance claim gets unfairly denied? That's when you'd go to the insurance ombudsman. And then you have the Lokadalit, which offers a way to get faster negotiated settlements for cases that are already stuck in the MACT system. Each one has a very distinct and crucial role to play. So let's bring it all home. When you step back and look at the whole picture, from the high-level supervision by the IRDI, down to the very specific command for third-party insurance in the Motor Vehicles Act, and all the way through to specialized courts like the MACT, you can see it's a complete interlocking system. It's a whole structure of checks, balances, and legal pathways, all designed with one main purpose: to protect the average person in a world that's full of risk. And that really leaves us with one final big question. This legal framework has served us pretty well, but as we start looking at the future, a future with new risks like self-driving cars, delivery drones, and the whole gig economy, we have to ask ourselves, is our law ready for what's coming next? And that really is a question for you, the next generation of legal minds, to think about as you finish your study of this unit.